Great, let's get started then, and I'm going to talk for about 30 seconds and then leave it to you, Bella. This is the third delegates meeting we have had this year. The first one was on anthropology and citation and publication styles, dealing with how anthropologists are pressed by global citation indexes. The second was just a few months ago in June on anthropology in the state and how the state was influencing anthropology in all of our different societies and how we were all dealing with that, as well as with underlying senses of belonging to one's country and whether that was important. This one today has been organized primarily by Bella Feldman Bianco. And all three of these, by the way, have been organized by me as chair of WCAA, but also by the new WCAA task force, Associations in World Anthropologies, chaired by Leah Ferraro and Bella Feldman Bianco. So you guys are doing this. This meeting is being recorded. And what we will do is take the transcript as well as the video and place this on the WA website for people to see, because this is a valuable resource for people to have. So if anybody has any complaints about this, by all means, let us know, but it shouldn't be fine. This is hardly a controversial topic, even though it's one of extraordinary interest. So we'll take care of that. But for now, Bella, you're going to be the organizer and moderator today. So speak up. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. I am very happy to have this nice crowd here. And I want to say that, this is one of the first activities of the new task force association and world anthropology, strengthening dialogues and fostering joint activities and social solidarity. It's too big, the title, but in any case, I think that shows what we want to do. And not only gathering information that may lead to a collection of WCA members' associations history, but we also intend to stimulate joint activities, including joint publications and social solidarity that could help to understand and face the pressing socioeconomic pressures of our time. And in this sense, that we are proposing today this discussion on what is the future of anthropology, and also at the same time, how can we envision anthropology of the future. And I want to tell you that this issue of what is the future of anthropology came because of the two other meetings that we had. The one about the pressing issues, that was very important for us because so many people from Europe and also from other countries were talking about, the precarity. Most of the people talk about, the associations talk about precarity, of closing of programs that's going on in Europe and the United States, at least, and also sometimes criminalization of anthropology or people being arrested. So everything was related to precarity, and also it was very inspiring for the meeting that we had about anthropology in the state, and to see how connected these things are. Anthropology is to the state, even when we are against the state, or we are working together with the state. So in this sense, we are proposing questions, but that we can explore, but you can also bring up other questions that are important for your associations. This is the thing. So the questions we are proposing, and we want to hear from you, is anthropology has been changing always, but to what extent are the current closure of anthropology programs and the precariousness of the job market affecting anthropology and its future? I don't think that the anthropology is a dying discipline. It's a transforming. We are always in transformation. But we should really discuss and see what we can do about, not only how can we change or impose transformation, and how can we anthropologists focus on technological advances such as uh, artificial intelligence, both as a team of anthropological research, but also as a way maybe of improving our ethnographic methods. There are people already publishing about this. So, the idea is really not only to know more about your associations and your situation, but also how can we together face, promote changes. Antonio Cadeno, for instance, is telling us about the closing of his program. How can we do something else? We are the association of associations. So how can we do we could do something to maybe to avoid, or like WCAA as a water association can have some impact. So these are some ideas, but I want really to listen to you, what you have to say. And of course, I'm going to be very straight with time. Three, for 3 minutes for each as the first round. So who can want to start speaking? Antonio, would you like to start speaking? And maybe, just tell, have your hand on.
Okay. Thank you very much, Belda, for the introduction. Yes, well, I'm outside anthropology in Spain. There are I think in main places in the world, two sides, the academical one and the professional one, no? So people who are in the academy that can, through the courses and everything, be in the top in the field of anthropology in a kind of way of giving courses and doing academically, but well, sorry, I want to organize my mind to expose myself in the way that anthropology right now in Spain is very weak in the academic world and in the professional world. We cannot have, even anthropology is not recognized as a job. If you go to the state, when you look for professions in the state to be taxed, anthropology, there are 3,000 professional options, but there is not even anthropology as a professional option. So starting in this point, is the way to see that an X-ray on how people know about anthropology in Spain. And anthropology in Spain has arrived after the dictatorships, but in a very medical way. So it really starts in a cultural path after the 2010. So the first, in the way of the first career only focus on anthropology, not only on the medical and health or physical anthropology way, no? So maybe our public is not connected with the category of anthropology and the discipline. So they really think that we are still there is a lack of knowledge in that field. So what I've been trying to do last 20 years is producing documentaries as a way to achieve and to get a bigger target audience, not in the discipline of the academy, but we have to hide in some way the name of anthropology because people don't understand it very well. There is a lack of knowledge on that way, no? So the point is, even after trying to do multimodal anthropology in different way to achieve the general public, not the academical one, we haven't got it. We have to hide behind cultural and other words. I give some courses in the Master of the Autónoma University and Complutense University in anthropology. Last year we have 40 students. This year we have 15 students in both universities. So we are missing a lot of students. I don't know exactly why. I don't know how to, because we produce knowledge through a methodology and through epistemology, but we have to change the way to communicate ourselves and really reach the new generations and get interested in the cultural studies. It's not easy with the new entertainment medias and other economical. I think one of the biggest point, I think, is because there is no as a professional in anthropology, there is no economical revenue in this field when people work on it. So,
Antonio, I think that you make a very good statement, and I think that it's really important to go on with listening to other people. You can
yeah,
come back
sorry.
another round, but I don't know who would like to talk about this or share the same issues or not, because you are bringing very important problems that I think that are not only limited to Spain, but maybe there is a new trend now that other professions are like was very much people other professions are taking the place of what anthropology or social sociology or human sciences played before. And I think that it's very, very important to discuss this and other issues. But who could want to address? Would be nice to hear everyone.
Okay.
I'm going to point to people. You want to please?
Mimina
This
has
is
her
what I
hand.
do. Please, yes. You can say.
Me,
Who
Bella?
that you François, your name is François, no? Yeah.
I don't
So-
know. Yes, I was.
Who will talk? No
I can
problem.
wait.
And then you are the next, okay?
Okay.
No, can you say yes? And then okay, okay. Yes. You can start or Mima.
I
Sorry, Mimina. Okay, it's me now?
yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I was confused a little bit. Sorry. Well, it was the question is great. It's a great question actually, and we're all facing problems, several problems. Also, as Antonio said, to the academic side of story, but also to the professional side of story. I think that it's very important that we as anthropologists to think how our discipline saves, let's say, the field and putting human being in a central position. I mean, we have our contribution here is to give to human beings again the position to talk for them and for relationships. I mean, we have to think again to the anthropos that we say anthropologists. It's very important to, and I think only our discipline can do this, or in a interdisciplinary way with other social sciences, that we have to rethink again the shape of human being, to see again where we can stand as human beings, and see also how far we can extend our relationships to non-human beings and several other relationships that we produce, and how also we have extend also the life of ethnography, the way ethnography collaborates in several other fieldworks with several other methodologies. But I think that this is a crucial time for anthropology to give her stigma to the situation. And I think human beings, talking about human beings again, not beyond them. again, through them, for them. There is an old traditional in Greece where people were producing some candles, let's say, to let them go upstairs to the skies, and that shapes were to the human body, up to the human body. So I think anthropology can give the chance to the people to think again, to make questions to all these things that is happening around us with digital technologies. Of course, we need them. Without digital technologies, we'd not have this collaboration now. But we have to care a lot about what is happening inside, which is the context, what are the politics, which are the politics of ethics too. And I think anthropology have a lot of work on it to enrich the rest disciplines, to enrich also public and private sector. Of course, I can understand that it's really difficult, but I think anthropology is the voice that can talk for human beings. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Francois, then.
Yes, Francine, thank you. I agree with our two first guests. All those opinions are really, talks a lot to me. But I would like to raise a couple of questions. I do not have any response, but only questions about how do we face the question of collaboration with other disciplines? It is true that we are facing a very high level of fragility. I agree with that, and we are living that also in Canada. But often I can observe, and you probably also, the problem of humanities, and the way to raise the question of humanism. We had that on the last point. It's important, but how do we face the question of, do we fight with other disciplines in the context? We are always a bit nationalist in the context of anthropology, and we are defending our discipline, and I am the first to, I agree with that, but I am still having questions about the collaboration we have or not with other disciplines and the situation of human science. Actually, in all places of the world, our value, I will say the intellectual value, but the economic value, which has, it have a weight for our students if they choose one of our other field within humanities, and of course one of that anthropology, they know or not they will have a good job or not. And the question of the economic situation of human sciences in all over is an issue for us. And I just, I have that question. The other point is the way we are thinking about what is describing a word. We had once upon a time the nice vision of Clifford Geertz with the deep description, and it gave a huge rise, I think, to the discipline all over. But now, with all the means and new technologies and all the fields we invest as a discipline, I think we transform the way of thinking about description. And one thing, I am participating actually in a group of in technology science and neuroscience, and it's interesting. Those people doesn't know one word, one image of what we are doing. They just do not know what is the issue of description. And we have, it's just an example, but I think they are not alone in that situation. And we have things to say about what it is that humanism, description, how to think today, description, and how to demonstrate. We are in the first place about that issue of describing finely, very finely, the word.
Thank you very much.
Plural. That's it.
We-
And I have other things, but later.
Yeah, exactly, but in another round. Thank you very much. So I would like to, Andrea, are you ready to talk? Because we raised,
Well,
there were raised
no,
topics that even about interdisciplinarity, collaboration with other disciplines, and I think that this is something that
yeah,
you could talk about, and also the question about, let's go back to what we do so well, that is to put human beings and on the scene again, because now we have to study also the robots.
yeah, I can speak a little bit now and make a little comments, and maybe later on, Bella, other things. I don't know really what to say. So far, I agree there were very important and common issues presented so far by the previous colleagues. And there are some specificities in Brazil,
Yes,
which perhaps
you
I can
put
point out.
it, yeah.
Speaking about the collaboration with other disciplines, we have had some networks. For example, we have a network called A4 here, which is a network of associations of sociology, political science, anthropology, and UNPOX, which is the umbrella organization for the humanities, for the social sciences here in Brazil. So we have done some work together, especially when concerning the public agenda, when we have to make statements about some political situation, social situation in Brazil, state or corporations acting. So we have done public statements together. We have organized a few webinars, seminars together. For example, about climate change. What do humanities have to say about climate change? Because there is a little space for social scientists in this debate, we believe. When there is a huge debate about big debates about climate change, they always called climatologists, physicians, but they don't really ask what sociologists or anthropologists have to say about climate change. But we have tried to go beyond humanities, and we always make seminars and things like that together in order to bring these issues, common issues, forward. So these are some things that we have done as a network of social sciences disciplines. We also have a larger network of associations called, which comprises more than 50 associations of humanities in the field of humanities. So we have education, psychology, journalism, whatever, history, geography. So we comprise like 55 associations of the big area of humanities. And we have also organized this network, but basically in the same purpose of the small one, of the A4. We organize seminars and we make statements together. So we have exchanged like this, but not very deeply within, crossing the conceptual, theoretical, and methodological challenges of our disciplines. It's more in terms of, what each discipline has to say about a specific issue. And this is what I have to say about this for now. But maybe I can speak later. Sorry about my English. I haven't spoken lately, so sometimes I get very rusty.
Very good
And then
English.
one
Thank you
more
very
thing.
much.
Just one more thing, Bella, can I say about the Brazilian field, in relation to what Antonio said? that it's the scenery is very sad in Spain, but here in Brazil we have a different we have a different scenario, which if I have time I would like to speak about later, perhaps, or now, I don't know, but I don't want to monopolize the word here. So it's up to you, Bella, when I speak about this new fields of research, new scenarios concerning.
I think that's later on. I think.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
who wants to talk now? Okay, Sylvia. Sylvia
Hi.
here.
Hi, here from Argentina. And very briefly, right now we are going through a major problem in the country because the universities are being occupied by the students. I don't know if occupied is the right word, but the government vetoed a law that finances public universities. So what is happening is that the students are sleeping in the universities. There are classes on the streets, what we call public open classes, and there's a major crisis about the future of public education because it's free in Argentina. So we're going through a really difficult situation. In spite of this, we have a major conference this week on medical anthropology in the country. And what I see for the future is that we continue doing what we know how to do as anthropologists, and the specificity of our method and our focus. And what I see is that in spite of all these crises, and of course, all the technological aspects that have been mentioned, such as artificial intelligence and so on, students are still studying anthropology. And there's an interest in people, in spite of all these difficulties, continue to do research and will continue. There's something that we all know about the method and the approach, and of course, the theoretical aspects of anthropology that are still attractive and considered to be important. So we're going through this very difficult situation, but on the other hand, there's this outburst of academic activity at the same time. So very briefly.
What I was putting is that you are now in a period of struggles. It's not that anthropology is dying, but there's also the students are fighting against the dictatorship, this crazy president that you have. Is different. But I think that situation that Antonio, and I am putting this for discussion, and Antonio could talk again, or some other people, is different, because what he is putting is not a struggle, is that there is a lack of interest in anthropology, if I am right, if I understood you well. Both academically and as a discipline. Like, for instance, in Brazil, in other places, also in Argentina, in other places, it's like a visual anthropology is blooming, flourishing. And there is a lot of interest. So it's different in Spain. What about other countries? Like, I think that you have this liminal situation in Spain, and also in other countries, Latin America, it seems that things are like flourishing or struggles. Am I right? Who else wants to say something about it? Please, yes.
Okay,
Gabi.
here, Marisa from, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Gabi and Marisa, I believe. Gabi and Marisa?
Yeah, Gabi Marisa, who wants to talk
yes. Okay.
Who wants to talk
It's okay. Me, Gabi? Go, go, go.
Go, Marisa. Oh, Gabi.
Let's hear from non-Latin Americans if we can, just for a second, because we've had many. That would
Okay,
be-
Gabi then. Gabi first.
Hi, hello everyone. So I'm from Anthropology Southern Africa, which is a South African-based association, but representing 7 other countries in Africa. I think the question around the popularity or the future of anthropology is is a bit of a difficult one. From when I did my undergrad, I can definitely say that anthropology's popularity has increased, because when I was doing my undergrad, there was 20 of us in an undergrad first year class, whereas now there's about 200, 300. Now that's also linked to the fact that the humanities programs here are the programs that students get the easiest entrance to. So when they don't make it into the STEM programs, they then get accepted into the humanities. So we do have quite a big bulk of the student population, whether it's their choice or not. They tend to get referred to the humanities faculty. So I can say that a big portion of our anthropology students are anthropology students because they were having to choose between humanities subjects that they potentially didn't want to be in. And then obviously what happens is that we managed to capture a few and carry on into postgraduate work. And in the last few years, we had quite a dip in terms of our postgraduate students. But I've noticed this year, for example, things are changing and we're getting bigger numbers in terms of our postgraduate numbers. Our undergraduate numbers have taken a bit of a dip in the last 2 years or so. So we seem to be moving up within the postgraduate work, but not necessarily undergraduate is seeing quite the dip. I think though that it is a very, we are actually, in terms of the new technologies that have come through, we are facing a bit of a challenge when it comes to the kinds of anthropologists that are coming out and the kinds of learning that students are coming. AI has really impacted the ways in which the outcomes and students' abilities to write critically or think critically and conceptually, because they tend to defer to AI for their writing. And it's very difficult to try and catch it, and it doesn't matter what AI tools they're using and all of those, the plagiarism. But the impact in terms of students learning those really technical and fundamental skills that anthropology really teaches, has actually been negatively impacted. At the same time, though, the kinds of technologies that we're seeing have opened up the possibilities of this moment of merger between the humanities and the STEM subjects. I think we are starting to see, when it comes to issues around employment and the actual the benefits of actually having an anthropology degree, a lot of companies are requiring somebody to translate the technology to people, right? And that sort of middleman between the company and the sales and all the sort of what companies want and the developers of these technologies. And we actually find that within, our context and some of the work that the university has done, that actually if we pivot sort of anthropology really well and start having partnerships beyond just the humanities and work with other departments, that actually the benefits for our students can be really great, because their skill set is really important. I think also this moment has helped us really be able to, in more concrete ways, be able to teach these ideas around the post-human. Because it's very difficult to teach around the post-human and talking about nature, because nature is something so, how do I even consider it? It's kind of this big thing that people take for granted. But with technology and the ways in which they're able to kind of think about it as a separate element that's developed, they're able more to concretely conceptualize these notions of post-human and what does it mean to be human. When the human starts and when the human ends, we're thinking about the kinds of technologies that impact things around life, for example, like death, nature, nurture, and those kinds of really foundational concepts. I find that teaching that through technology and less through ideas around nature and environment really help in terms of quantify some of these ideas. But yeah,
you finish?
that's what I have to say.
Well, okay. Thank you very much. Now, Marisa, you want to say?
Yes, thank you. I am having a bad connection, and maybe I couldn't understand very well the Gabi participation. I am sorry, because maybe I cannot continue in the same way, but I was talking with my colleagues from the Mexican Association. I am a member of SEAS, and with Liz Perez, Laura Valladares, and Adriana Aguayo, we were discussing the first question that you made us, and we think that in the last years in Mexico, there was a decrease in the undergraduate and graduate enrollment, not only in anthropology, but in many other fields. And we think that it is a very complex moment where there is a huge decrease in the demand of applications for entering into the programs. And in some Mexican universities, such as UAM or CIESAS, two of the biggest centers of anthropology in Mexico, in the last 3 years, there was a 50% of decrease in the number of applications. And we think that the reasons could be that maybe students are changing their expectations, or anthropology doesn't make sense to them, or they don't consider postgraduate studies as a possibility of finding employment or better conditions of life. But in general, we observed that in the last years, there was less interest in our field in different schools of anthropology in Mexico. And related to the second question that you made, related to the question of anthropology as a dying discipline, we consider that anthropology is an alive discipline. I don't know if this is the correct translation. Maybe you can help me. Una disciplina muy viva, as we say in Spanish.
Lively.
And lively. Thank you. Lively. But we think that in this world that is characterized by violence, by changes in governments, by shifts to the extreme right, by conservative and anti-feminist policies, we need to say many things. We need to explain many process and problems that we are living as a world. And we think that there is a superficial or unserious explanation about what are the causes of the biggest problems in the world. For example, gender violence or migration, that in many times migration, for example, is considered such as otherness, or strangers that are criminalized, such as if they were a cultural issue, when in reality, migration is a very complex structural problem. And here technology has a lot to say to understand how identities are expressed in community memberships in this complex world. But we think that we still have a lot to explain, a lot to contribute to the understanding of the great challenges that the world faces. For example, when we talk about the rights of nature, the defense of territories, anthropology has documented defenders of the earth that are persecuted and murdered. And we think that this is very absurd, and we need to say it. We need to reivindicate that defenders of the earth are the guardians of the earth, and we think that we have
Marisa,
still a lot
last,
to say. Yeah,
if
thank you.
You can finish a little bit.
Yeah,
But
thank you.
I think that your point is well made. It's really not different from Minima's idea that, we have a lot to say, and it seems that we need really to promote anthropology again. because we know the importance, but we are in a world that of entrepreneurship. Maybe this is why, I don't know, I'm putting as a question. Maybe this is why people don't want to pursue academic careers. They want, and also the world like it is. I think that we have to maybe start looking more why is it that anthropology is not the first preference or second preference, but understand more the world that we live now in, because it's a world of technology, or a world of entrepreneurship, a world of the advance of the far right that have other values, like freedom of expression, things like that. But I am just putting this as a question for you people, and I want to go, okay. So Maya Tricky, please.
Thank you.
Oh,
I am.
Everyone speaking something.
I
Also
am. Sorry.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I am Soumaya Triki from Tunisia. I am a researcher in the Center of Biotechnology of SPACS. Today, I am representing the Tunisian Association of Anthropology. I find this topic very important. Generally, the systems of educational and academic institutions could exercise only a slight impact on the future of the field that are being taught, such as anthropology. Therefore, we think that the future of the latter is mainly in the hands of anthropologists. Thus, the principal question that we should propose is how anthropologists envision the future of anthropology and what they have to do to give it a bright future. We answer this question as follows. If we try to describe the current situation of anthropology, one can know the presence of two major categories of anthropological studies. A category of studies where anthropologists yet follow classical approaches that often fall within the limits of one subspecialties of anthropology, given that these classical approaches often do not need a very hard, long work. They have been yet followed by a great number of anthropologists. We think that this situation, unfortunately, affects negatively the development of anthropology and pull it back. Moreover, it is not an agreement even with the classical definition of anthropology that would follow an interdisciplinary method because it studies man in his totality. The second category of studies where anthropologists try to follow in variable degrees modern interdisciplinary approaches. Only some of these studies have reached a satisfactory high level by presenting great analysis and synthesis within rigorous interdisciplinarity or even transdisciplinarity, such as the case of scarce leader studies where what is cultural was combined with what is biological, or scarce leader studies in applied anthropology or design anthropology. We think this second way, if it has been followed, even in variable degrees, by the majority of anthropologists, will represent the bright future of anthropology. This will assure the power of anthropology that it can be in continual expansion, aiming to reach a wide group of different fields and use the most recent technologies developed in these fields. Moreover, within a modern definition of anthropology, anthropologists should not only take an original look at the human fact as a whole in the past and in the present, but also try to solve present human problems, search solutions for them, and ensure the safety of the future of the humanity. After
Thank
this,
you very much.
you are welcome.
Again, like we have to start promoting anthropology. And this is like something that WCAA can do together with you people a lot. You should put it in the agenda. So now I think that is something that we have to think about, how to promote anthropology in these dark ages. Who else wants to talk? Ed. Oh, Gordon. Let that
Let Ed go
okay?
first and then I'll jump in. Yeah, Ed, you go first.
Well,
Thanks. I'm Ed Lebo. I am retired from my post as the executive director of the American Anthropological Association, and I'm just really interested in the range of perspectives that have been shared here. In the US, I would say there is generally a decrease in the public trust and confidence in institutions of higher education. That is, people questioning whether any college degree is worth the expense of going to university. But within that context, I would say that there is an uneven distribution of the prospects for anthropology. In the US, there are more than 3,000 colleges and universities that grant at least a bachelor's degree. There are 120 institutions that grant a doctoral degree in anthropology. And a recent study that was published in the American Anthropologist, I'll post the DOI in the chat here. It shows that of all the faculty who are teaching at those degree granting institutions, more than 60% of them come from one of 12 universities, which means that the 108 other institutions that grant PhDs are not placing their graduates in faculty positions. Those people are going on to other professions, and in many cases are lost to the discipline. They go. Yes, the job situation in the U.S., Virginia, I hope you'll agree with me about this, is pretty dire for academic positions. However, we continue in this country to produce more than 500 new PhDs every year, and those people are going to work in a wide range of career paths. And I personally am quite optimistic about the future of anthropology in a range of career paths, not just the academy. So I believe that there is an active role. For just one more minute, Bella, if you wouldn't mind, just an active role for societies to play in calling attention to the valuable work that anthropologists do, in supporting departments, in advocating at the national and provincial or state house level for public support, for research, and for maintaining the integrity of publicly collected databases. Lots of work for our societies to do. Thank you.
thank you very much for bringing these points, because I think that in Brazil, for instance, what we need more is most of the people, research that we have done, most of the people that graduate go to the academia. And one thing that I have been fighting for is that there are so many other possibilities rather than just academia. And this is also something that we have to promote. I think it's important to say, what is it that we have to add to anthropology? Gordon, thank you.
Okay. Speaking, and Virginia had her hand up too, so you can come after me, but speaking briefly from Hong Kong,
Sorry.
Hong Kong is doing extremely well. we're not suffering this way. All of our PhDs have gotten jobs, mostly in mainland China. We have growing programs, higher numbers of people employed. This is despite the fact that mainland China is no longer a good place to do research in for many of us. But Hong Kong is seen as a place where anthropology can be more free than it is on the Chinese mainland. I'm hoping this will continue. We'll see what happens, but it's been pretty optimistic. Now, I want to give, just for a couple of minutes, a larger view that's a little more skeptical than many of you have said. When I talk to deans, vice chancellors, and so on, some of them say anthropology is great for studying tribal peoples, ethnic minorities, but as the world continues, tribal peoples are going to die out. Who needs it anymore? I mean, that's a very blunt statement that I've heard. And we need to be facing this. We need to find an identity that will go beyond it. Now, we definitely can. Certainly, anthropology has a role to play in the study of artificial intelligence. Certainly, anthropology has a role to play in the study of contemporary bureaucracies and so on. But in terms of educating the larger public, we need to go beyond that earlier definition to create something new that we do. I mean, I think of the greatest anthropology book ever written by some people's account, Ruth Benedict. She brought in this new notion of culture that people grabbed onto. Today, if we ask for an identity for anthropology, most people can't define it. Even anthropologists themselves often can't define it. And Muggsy and I have been in a task force dealing with this, and we argue about this a great deal. But having said this, there is an ongoing problem. We can't simply promote anthropology. We also have to figure out the new direction of where we want our discipline to go that really will mark it as unique within this world and give it a growing rather than declining role.
Thank you very much. Okay, again, lots of ideas. Virginia, please. Sorry, I didn't see your hand before. But you have to unmute.
Right,
You
right,
unmute.
right, no longer. Okay, why am I muted still? I'm unmuted. Am
Oh,
I?
why not?
Okay, I don't know. The computer was confused. Anyway, I agree with pretty much everything Ed said. I'm also in the US. I spent years on the WCAA board, so I am now, I guess, technically on the advisory board. But I am also, let's see, past president of the American Anthropological Association and current Secretary General of the IUAES. So we can talk about various things. Well, there are two things I wanted to add to what Ed said in some ways about anthropology in the US. One, which I don't think he touched on, but most of you may know, anthropology in the US is still very committed to a Boasian idea of there being four subfields: biological anthropology, archaeology, anthropological archaeology, linguistic anthropology, and sociocultural anthropology. And, you know, when I think about that and I think about my own experiences in various ways, it is true that there are, I don't know, it is true that there are that there's some growth, but I actually think that it's not really in sociocultural anthropology. I think the growth is in biological anthropology, medical anthropology, and archaeological anthropology. In fact, at least a few years ago, when there was a study about job employment prospects, it was basically contract archaeology that looked really good, not anything else. So I think that is really important. The other thing I wanted to say is I think anthropology in the US has probably always been a weak discipline. And you know, there have been slight increases and so forth, but I think a lot of that has been true for the last, I don't know, 120, 30 years.
It's 10 o'clock.
Okay, sorry. That was my computer. I think there have been some periods of growth in terms of people, for example, in the mid to late 60s, early 70s, a lot of folks went from being in the Peace Corps to studying anthropology. But I think anthropologists in general actually, I don't know, they both resent the fact that it's not as important as political science or economics or law. And they also therefore have retreated from that, so they don't really promote anthropology very much. They get quite upset when there are departments that are being closed down or at least downsized, but they don't necessarily do much else. And I think part of the problem is indeed and maybe anthropologists not necessarily promoting what they do. So let me leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. So, Dorothy, please.
Yes, hello. I'll say a few things about the Italian situation. Perhaps a little less pessimistic. Of course, less pessimistic in the sense that the problem of precarity is something that's been chronic for decades, et cetera. And so maybe we're actually paradoxically a little better off than we were, but only because we were used to such a difficult situation. Students who take anthropology courses in the university love it. There's a wonderful reaction. But in terms of institutional weight, we are still a very small discipline and overshadowed by other disciplines, especially sociology, who also often appropriates the ethnographic method, and but that's a whole other conversation. But I think one of the things that paradoxically could be a strength comes out of a weakness, in the sense that we don't have PhD programs. We have one, I believe, that's left that is strictly an anthropology PhD. For the other things, our anthropology PhDs are in hybrid PhD programs. And this might be favoring some interdisciplinary work. And I think that this is one of the things that's actually positive in the Italian situation. We heard before about from Francine talking about the humanities, et cetera. And yes, anthropology does feel the general crunch with the emphasis on STEM. On the other hand, in Italy, after the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, we had really, really abundant resources coming in from the European Union for the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. And with that, we had a lot of hiring in the university for professorships, also for research projects that took on anthropologists, postdocs. So there's been a lot of actually a lot of activity going on, and a lot of that is in the area of science and technology. Anthropologists are working in interdisciplinary collaborations in environmental studies, various projects regarding science. Cultural heritage, which is one of the strengths in Italy. Food anthropology is another strength in the Italian context, and also in anthropology and design. That kind of collaboration with the designers is having a huge boom. Somebody had also mentioned design, and I do want to say this is a real growing area in Italy. We also have a strong tradition in medical anthropology, and many anthropologists are working in that direction, and we have a very active group of applied anthropologists who have their own society. So right now, the situation is a little bit better, but I don't know if it's because the benchmark was already so bad that it looks better because of that. A brief word about AI, artificial intelligence. I don't have a sense yet about how much it's affecting us in terms of our work, our practices, et cetera. At the university level, Italy has a strong tradition of evaluation of students with oral exams. So in that sense, it's in a way returning to the past of oral exams is probably a safe way to avoid problems with artificial intelligence and plagiarism and this sort of thing. On the other hand, the problem that was mentioned earlier about a general effect of weakening students' critical thinking skills and some other skills because of the omnipresence of artificial intelligence, this could certainly be something to think about, but I don't have enough of a sense right now for the Italians to say something.
I think that Dorothy, that maybe this is another discussion.
Yeah.
Delayed, but another discussion. Maxi, thank you very much. Maxi.
Thank you, Bella. I'm going to be brief because Gabby's already spoken. I want to just develop something she's meant to put on the chat, where she says the possibility of employability is low, but I think that has to be put into the context in South Africa of very, very high unemployment rates across the board, including for graduates who've completed undergraduate degrees. So we're sitting at a probably 35 or 40% unemployment rate, goes up higher when you look at younger people. But I want to pick up on something Gordon said, and also what you've said, Bella. I think we have to, from my perspective, we have to look at anthropology as a means of addressing the kinds of difficulties that we're describing. Everybody is describing precarity, loss of opportunities, and the kind of polarization which Ed described without talking about it. But the polarization in America, which is forcing people away from university training and education. So anthropology can contribute to that, but the more we contribute, the more we antagonize those who are antagonized by us. So we have to find ways to develop our skills to address those problems. And I think those are global, or pretty much global. How do we use what anthropologists have to address those kinds of general processes of polarization around ethno-nationalism, around class, around wealth, and around gender? I mean, race. All of these things are coming up and hitting the world and destroying the world one way or another. But we as anthropologists have the capacity to address those, but we haven't found a way to convey that capacity beyond ourselves and without antagonizing part of the population.
Thank you very much. Who is next, or should I call someone? Thomas Reuter, I see you there. Would love to hear you. Not there? Vesna.
Hi. Yes. Okay. I'll say a few things. I think that we can at this point, including what the WCAA can do and WOW altogether, do two major things. One is to start to try to connect more with the global trends in trying to what is now called save the world, right? With all the uncertainties, all the changes in nature, in society, which are quite critical. And one of such initiatives is the UNESCO or the UN Decade of Sciences for Sustainable Development, which actually will try in the next 10 years, starting from this year, try to kind of create a commonality among and collaboration more than it has existed before between different disciplines. So this includes social sciences and humanities. And, in my part of the world is Serbia. Sorry, I forgot to say, I'm from University of Belgrade, from Serbia. Anthropology is partially considered a social science in some classifications and in some as humanity. And basically, I think this is a true thing because we are both at the same time. But anyway, I think that we should try to connect more with these global trends and global associations. And there is now, since this decade was pronounced last year, at least its beginning, there is a coalition which is called the Earth Humanity Coalition, which already has about 55 different organizations, institutions, and so on worldwide, which are actually trying to help of course, along with other big organizations which are acting separately on their own, like the International Science, what is it called? International Science, no, it's not fund. What is it called? Council, sorry, Council. It's a widely known organization.
IFC, you mean? International?
Yeah. On the other hand, I think we should show, not only talk about, what is there that we can offer, observation, our methodology, which is part of that, but basically our methodology, which is very unique and which is, of course, as mentioned here, used by other sciences more openly or more secretly in some cases. So I think we can show, and maybe there's a possibility again to constitute a project in WOW to show how this on-the-ground research that we do, that we perform each in our fieldwork and each our region or society, can help in trying to save the world, let's say, and in this context of working towards sustainable future. So, for example, anthropologists could act a little bit more towards the wide public and try to use their knowledge, which they gathered locally, to present it in let's say, short stories, scientific stories, which would showcase how a local community has been able to, with their own resources, in their own ways, using their traditional methods, for example, keep their agriculture alive or even improve it. I'm taking this as one example in the context of agriculture and food security and so on. And in all aspects of life and production and culture and everything, there are cases like that. And each society, especially the indigenous groups, which have been studied mostly by anthropologists, have been doing such things. Some of them more, some less successfully, but at least there is one domain in which they have done something concrete, which can be shared with the others. And maybe WCAA, with all its resources, as we know, especially WC, but of course I'm not excluding, the commissions of IOES, but I'm referring to the associations at this point with their membership, who are anthropologists, can make up a project where all this can be shared and then distributed. Then, of course, it would have to be planned with a concrete strategy, how this knowledge and how these strategies can be shared with other groups that are doing similar things or that are not doing similar things, but could be doing, and also with policymakers on the level of the region, of the nation state, and globally. So
thank you very much.
This is
lots of ideas. I think that's great. I think it's great. Now, Janji or Satoshi, you should talk.
Thank you.
To representatives of Japan.
Okay.
Janji?
Thank you very much. Yeah. If you don't mind, I want to make some comments. Just like I heard right now, the global cooperation for the sustainable future, it's really important. The target we should deal with. At the same time, each anthropologist has its own problem in its own countries. And I just want to make a few comments on the situation in Japan. There's a bad news and good news. Bad news is, just like other social sciences and humanities, the job market is pretty much on the hard side in Japan. And the good side is JASCA, Japanese Society of Cultural Anthropologists, started the active cooperation with the society. And the one is the cooperation with medical schools. In the last 5 years, the Japanese medical schools changed its curriculum nationwide. they decide to incorporate social sciences in their doctor's trainings, which means each program has to have medical anthropologist or medical sociologist. So Jessica set up a committee to discuss with medical doctors and medical schools to promote the employability of anthropologists in Japan at medical schools. And the other one is somehow in Japanese business scene, the entrepreneurs and the younger generation came to show interest in anthropological ethnographic methods. And so we've been contacted quite often from those younger businessmen. And so we set up the committee to deal with or to answer those needs. So right now, and Jessica has two special committees to promote the employability in the medical schools. The other one is to promote the presence of anthropologists in the business scene. And those are the good news. But in general, and in Japan, it is really hard for you to get a PhD in anthropology. Just because you can study anthropology in the PhD programs, but the name of the degrees are not in anthropology. And so there may probably be one or two PhD programs that you can get a PhD in anthropology in Japan. And on the other hand, the members of the JASCA is about 1,800 members right now. And quite a few members of JASCA are on the administration side of the Japanese universities. So I don't know if it's a good or bad, but it's the state of the JASCA society in Japan. And at the same time, in the last 3 years, the anthropology in Japan has under some spotlight just because the Ainu people or the indigenous population in Japan and it has been focused on in many different aspects. And the Japanese Society of Cultural Anthropology made a public statement of apology to the Ainu people this year, April. And that's because we didn't take any appropriate actions which we should have taken to cooperate with the indigenous people or to prevent any social racial discriminations. And so we made a statement of apology. And we also had several meetings with the Ainu people. And Jessica is right now doing our best to set up the research ethics guidelines, especially on the Ainu people. So I mentioned several different points, but there is some good news and bad news. And what I can say is that anthropology in Japan is changing right now, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Andrea, okay, please.
Well, very, very shortly, I'll try. I think Vesna brought some ideas about how to relate to these global initiatives, then global institutions, but it seems that Maxi also brought some questions about the limits of this engagement with international global institutions such as the UN or within the UN. And I agree with him that perhaps it would be a good idea for us to have a seminar, a webinar on this topic to ask ourselves the achievements or the limits and of such in consequence and effects of such engagements, bringing also some of our ethnographic experiences about how these global programs, they really act in the field, in the territories of local people, local communities. In fact, I think we should, in the first place, make some reflections about the category of sustainable. What do we mean by sustainable? What does UN mean by sustainable? Is sustainable general, common sense generalize do we have the same meaning of a sustain? What do we understand by sustainable? This is the first question that I would ask in this seminar. What people speak, what people think about sustainability, sustainable from different perspectives. So I believe there is no one sense of sustainability. So it's a good approach. And I'd like to speak a few more words about some trends in Brazilian anthropology. Bella, do I have 1 minute more?
Yeah.
Because we have experienced a burst in an increase of students in undergraduate courses which were created since, 15 years now. It's very recent, the existence of undergraduate courses in anthropology in Brazil. There were only postgraduate courses until lately, 15 years ago. So there is a search for an anthropology in undergraduate course, but we have this challenge of the working place of these people now, the professional place of these people. Where would these people work? This is a big challenge for us. There is a decrease. Of course, the academic field is very limited to absorb these people who are becoming anthropologists. But we have an increase in the market field of anthropology, which is it's a very big concern of ours. I don't know if you're following me, but the professionalization of anthropology is an issue, is a reality in Brazil. We don't have a law that rules the profession of anthropology. So we have people calling themselves anthropologists without being anthropologists. Yes. We have people coming from religious background, religious institutions, calling themselves anthropologists and acting in the field, researching, for example, indigenous communities within a process of large development projects. So they're called to tell if these people are indigenous or they are quilombolas or they are, their social identity. So there is a huge dispute in the field of anthropologists here in Brazil. This is something that ABA needs to tackle very urgently. So I'm putting this here for all the colleagues as well. Who are the anthropologists? We have to really tackle the issue, or who is creditable, or who is legible to be called anthropologists. Who are the anthropologists in Brazil, and how they interfere in the public sphere, in the disputes for land rights and identity recognition of these groups. Sorry, I don't know if I'm making myself very clear here, but this is the issue. Anthropology has grown in academia, has grown in terms of courses forming anthropologists. We have a market for anthropologists, but we don't have regulation. So we have all different types of people calling themselves anthropologists. So this is a very important and urgent issue that ABA needs to deal with here in Brazil. And I don't know what's happening in other countries. I don't believe we have the same problems, of course.
I think that's important also to discuss it more here. I think that maybe we should have a discussion that the WCAA to bring these issues, the regulation or not of the profession, and what is it that attracts people to be anthropologists that are not anthropologists, but they have all this type of vested interest. Francine has to say. Okay, finish.
Just to say that there is a political scenario in Brazil which is it's very dangerous for us. They are attacking us. Anthropologists are attacked by being opposite to economic and governmental interests, and they are organizing these enemies of anthropology are organizing themselves, and we run the risk that even they make a step forward in order to legalize the profession of anthropologists without us anthropologists being asked about it. Bella, this is something we need to discuss in our council, because there are some parliamentary people.
No, I agree. We have to discuss, and we have to discuss right away. But also, I think that we should discuss.
I'm calling a meeting, internal meeting. This is something for we can discuss internally. But I have called a meeting with the council, the Brazilian Anthropology Council. But this is something I want to bring to this audience here.
It's important. I think it's important. It's also something to be in the agenda. It's very important.
Yeah.
Francine, thank you very much, Francine.
I would like to have a point about Gordon appeal about where the discipline is going. And I think it's an important issue also. Actually, I am working on a paper important for me about the notion of diversity, and a part of the history of our discipline facing the question of diversity, not called like that, of course, 100 years ago. But now, in what we are facing is a lot of problems in most of the societies concerning the issue of human diversity and what is linked to the far wing, the right wing, actually. And I am very concerned about how the discipline had an incredible evolution since 20 years about the way of thinking culture. Sure, we had the current of ontologies and lots of different concerns linked to the way. I'm coming back to the description, but the other question is the question of culture. If that word since have a sense, I think we have to go back to that and go back to the humanism we tried as a discipline to have. And then some people talked about, in the beginning of our meeting, the question of humanism. We have to find a way to refound the humanistic and the humanism within our discipline. We had two big issues in front of us: the question of the right wing and the hard things we have in front of us, and the question of artificial intelligence and how it moves a lot of things about the way we have to be again and again human within that huge transformation. If you don't have core concepts, core methodologies, we can offer to the world, even the organization, international organization. I don't know how we can do that. We have to show a clear message of what we have to give and to the world, and how we want to interact with the different instances pertinent for us. So that's it. So Gordon, I really agree. It's not saying always, and it's sure we have problems, and it's sure we have some weakness, all that, it's true. But what positively can we offer? And that, I think we have lots of things, but how can we bring together those things and to unify some of our theories, recent theories, some of our ways to describe what is the new kinds of thinking about diversity of the word and human beings. That's a point. That's it.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Francine. And very quickly, Andrea, speaking to you, next, about 3 weeks from now in Johannesburg, WCA will have a symposium on sustainable development, on SDGs particularly. So we're directly in line. We're going to be definitely talking about this. We're in line with what you're saying. Now, so people haven't talked to you,
I'll be there
Bella?
virtually. I'll be there
Terrific.
virtually.
Great. Bella, some people haven't talked. I don't think Junji's talked yet. Anybody else?
Yes,
Yeah.
Junji, Fernando, Ellen
Yeah, Fernando.
McDonald, Francesca, Carmen Real, Thomas Reuter. So please contribute. Okay, Virginia again. You have the word. You raise your hand.
I did, but I
Time
can
is
wait.
right.
I can wait.
Okay.
I can
Okay.
wait. You want to? Okay.
Fernando, you want to say
Talk,
something?
Virginia.
Okay. No. What? Okay. Well, here's the thing. I think Gordon's radical, pretty straightforward but radical intervention is very important. I do know that there are some places in the world that are still largely focusing on indigenous groups. I don't think that that's necessarily the case in other places, including in the US. But, you know, even the ethnographic method is largely being, I don't know, used, abused, misunderstood, but claimed by a number of other disciplines. And same thing with culture. I think a lot of things, both topically and methodologically, a lot of other disciplines are sort of taking over. And if we as anthropologists think that there is something else that is not being taken over, then we should basically promote that, and we should argue for that. We should be I don't know. We should be annoyingly advocates for anthropology. Andrea is nodding, but otherwise, you know, I don't know. We could just decide this is the tail end of a discipline. There are some things in the past centuries that no longer exist. Nobody studies alchemy, for example. So,
Well, you
right?
know, like in Brazil, we are reinventing the four-field approach.
Don't copy us. Don't copy us. It's very complicated.
No, reinventing. Different way. But
That was it.
Okay. So, Fernando.
Well, thank you. I believe it's important. We're in. I mean, many of the things you've said are absolutely true for Mexico as well. We certainly have had less students, and even though they all have scholarships, so it is an issue that goes beyond the problems of financing studies. So that's something we should keep an eye on. But then there is also true that we have a lot of students who don't come from an anthropological background. I mean, we've had students coming from very, very different disciplines, including the scenic arts, for instance. And that gives, that enrich a lot of discussion in anthropology, and also broadens the fields where they go to work into. So that should be taken into account as well. And now the history of anthropology in Mexico is very, very strongly tied to the state, because anthropology in Mexico used to be a discipline that was promoted and used by the state in many ways. I'm not sure this is the case, not as strongly as it was. So that means that anthropology is engaging in many more critical studies and engaging a lot in advocacy and activities in NGOs and with communities. So that gives a new area to many people. So these are things we should be taking into account as well when we prepare for new generations of students. But also, it's very much in the discussion, in the public discussion, and as well as it is in the getting involved with other people in broader groups and collaborations. So I think it's all this is enriching, even though the academic fields is very, very tight, as in many other places, but not only for anthropology, but also for other disciplines. So what we see as new here is probably people engaging in forming their own NGOs and their own companies to promote anthropology in the private field, let's say. So all these are new issues that have to be taken into account. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So,
In the
Jorge,
closing minutes here, briefly, sorry, Bella. In the closing minutes here, for all of you, please go into the minutes that Michelle was taking, just to make sure that what you're described as saying is accurate. You know, we're only going to be here a few more minutes, but go into the what Michelle left us so that you can go in and make sure that you're represented properly. Sorry, Bella, go ahead.
okay. I want to know Junji, Francesca, Ellen, who else? Carmen, who wants to speak? We have to have everyone speaking.
I have a short thing that I would like to say at this moment is that one of the characteristics of anthropology is that the capacity of deconstructing has been critical of whatever can be there. And that is one good thing, but also something that can be seen as negative, because sometimes anthropologists are seen always as those who criticize and then do not positively construct, especially in applied activities. So that is one of the things that I wanted to add to the discussion for the time being, but I was taking minutes, so.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
I'm not sure if
Hi, thank you. Thank
okay.
you. Thank you, Bella. Well, I'm a member of WCAA advisory board, and I thought that maybe my fellow will coming, from Japan, and I'm glad that the president of the JASCA is now here, because somehow, as mentioned, Japanese association is pretty strong, a fairly good shape. But still, there's not a lot of things to contribute to anthropology. So I'm glad that to the president, and I just want to say, emphasize that Japanese should have a lot of things to give. You know, although Japanese anthropology is pretty separated from other situations from the experiences. For example, there was something point about business circle in Japan, and actually I want to say that not only anthropology, but a lot of humanities disciplines all the human associates, human sciences are supported by a lot of business people, and also it is supported by the government budget. So the situation is pretty different. For example, there's a National Museum of Japan, which is huge, and but at the same time, I'd say something good about Japanese anthropology, but at the same time, I feel very strange placed within anthropology. And this is something big issue. Of course, the Japanese indigenous problem, like Ainu people, that's a very big problem. Well, that's very important. But there are other difficult problems which anthropology should contribute. For example, Virginia said that ethnography is used and abused. That's a very big problem. I'm not too, but I'm not optimistic about the ethnography, although ethnography is very essential. But the use of ethnography is very problematic, and it can be very strong, but we need to discuss about the meaning of anthropology and ethnography. And another thing is that I wanted to say is that we are now gathering together as WCAA, but as Wesen said, we are WOW. There is a very difficult situation between WOW and the WCAA. And association is an association. WCAA is association of associations. That's important. We are association of associations, and we need to think about the relation between WOW and WCAA. Actually, by the way, I used to be a chair of the WCAA, and I have been the president of the IUAS. So I think there is a very important issue about our association itself. Well, that's something, the beginning of the discussion, but we need to think about our association.
Our association like WOW.
Yes.
Yes, we are getting there. But we can discuss it later on more. So who else wants to talk? I think that we have 15 minutes more.
Just briefly to address Junji, you're absolutely right. And we've been thinking about this a lot because WOW is very different from WCA. And so far, I'm jumping in here, but so far, the real issue has been getting IUAS and WCA to cooperate together. And I think we're finally overcoming that hurdle. So the next one is, what is WOW for? Because it's these two different kinds of groups, one being a large group of many anthropologists based on putting on conferences, the other being an association of associations. How can they work together best? And this is going to be the next major task we all have. What's the role of WCA in WOW, and what can WOW be to truly represent world anthropology? Thanks.
Well, I want to bring attention to what Andrea wrote here in the chat, and it's something that maybe we could discuss it, not now, in another occasion, because it's about identity politics within the association. And she said, race and decoloniality are important issues in Brazilian anthropology. But within this, there is a problem. Students are refusing to read classical anthropology or anything written by male white anthropologists. Are there similar movements in your context? So I think Ed, Virginia, to talk a lot about this, huh? I don't know who else want to talk about.
But you want me to say something? Or maybe Ed can. No? Okay. There is something similar going on in the US. I don't know that students are refusing to read things by classical anthropologists, white male anthropologists, but they're calling into question, pronouns and racial identity of various folks. So there's a version of that here. I don't know if what you're saying, Andrea, is that they're totally refusing to read these things. I mean, I think
Most of them.
Really, that's
Most-
amazing. That's
They
amazing.
refuse any literature which is not composed of Black or Indigenous writers,
Absolutely.
or women, Black, Indigenous writers, all this composition. So I'm worried that there is no dialogue. I mean, what is anthropology and the future of anthropology when anthropology becomes something? I mean, it doesn't really. It denies its past. It denies its classical approaches. Something like that. I think we need a seminar on this. Don't you think? Perhaps.
Absolutely.
But there is also another proposal that's the important Max proposal.
Can I just say, just this morning, I was talking to a colleague, and those of you who identify her, that colleague, by what I'm going to say, please don't say anything more. But that colleague worked extensively on what South Africans call the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, has published a lot of stuff on it. It's being extensively cited in Latin America, but not by any South Africans, because the colleague is an older white person, and the people who are writing here are citing only the Black colleagues who work on that field. Similarly, another example, an author who submitted something for publication, whose work should have built very heavily on the work by Anne Stoller, refused to cite Anne Stoller for her involvement in supporting John Komarov.
Yeah.
Not even a footnote saying, I'm not going to cite her. Now, cancel culture is killing the discipline. Andrea is absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, but it's the politics of identity and politics of canceling
Wait,
people.
Bella, wait a second. I want Muggsy to talk a little bit more, because you are against identity politics in anthropology. You want people to talk about ideas, ideologies, right? So can you talk about that?
I'm not sure how to talk about that in half a minute. I mean, the whole notion of identity politics means that we create boundaries around ourselves and we then defend them. Obviously, there are moments in history when it's necessary to create those boundaries and to fight against the oppression which particular identity categories suffer. But as soon as one starts doing that, they become so powerful that they turn on everybody else and they become oppressors in turn. The classic example right now is what's happening in the Middle East. Now, it's got a much bigger history than that, much longer history. So, but there's an entity of people who formed as an identity group. They called themselves a Jewish nation, which until the 19th century hadn't been talked about. it was a religion, it was a certain set of cultural values. It became a nation in the 19th century in the context of nation states. It managed to find a way to create a nation state. And now it is doing exactly what it accuses others of having done to it, to yet another set of others. Now, I mean, that's a very simplistic story, but identity politics is dangerous for that very reason. I don't think anthropologists can afford to just buy into it without questioning it, without being critical of it. In the same way, I'm trying to be critical of getting involved with global organizations. I mean, you've seen my notes in the chat.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew.
I think this deserves further discussion. Anyway.
So we have a full agenda for next meeting. It's so nice to talk to spend time talking, and we are going to meet now in Johannesburg in person or hybrid, and I think that it's nice to pursue now those in person, and I don't know if the delegates meeting is going to be also online. It would be nice to pursue this conversation. It would be really very good. So I want to know, Helen, you want to say something? Carmen, Antonio Caderno wants to talk again.
Helen said earlier she's here in spirit only.
Okay.
I think she's busy working very hard on programs.
She's a little busy. She's a little.
For 2 or 3 weeks' time, yeah.
No, Bella. Today I'm just listening. I agree with everything that our president, Andrea, said. I think she points out the main issues for anthropology in Brazil. And good to see you all.
Thanks.
Fun. You showed yourself.
And you show yourself. You look great.
Hi.
You look
I am shattered. It's all to do with the program. So those of you that are program conveners will have received an email today. And that's led to a flurry of people saying, oh my God, my panel clashes with my roundtable. So there's a little bit more maneuvering going on in the background. Yes, Muggsy, I know. And Ed, yes, it's been received, it's been changed.
Resolved, I see. Thank you.
Ed, you're on for both events. But just quickly, there will be another email that goes out very soon to every single delegate to say, now here's your program. So just doing some last minute tweaking from the panel conveners. But yes, we're there, we're getting there. So, and Muggsy, I know you looked at it. It's a really nice tool, I think. You get both your you get the whole program and you get your own agenda. So you cannot get it wrong in terms of where you personally need to be.
Bella, can I say something?
Yes,
Just very.
please.
Can we just applaud Helen?
Yes, of course.
Hey,
Applaud.
that's all I wanted to say. You know, you still look alive.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Great.
And Marissa, I'm going to point to you because you're my co-panel organizer. Will you order the papers for me? I haven't even had a chance to read them. They can stay as they are, or you might want to order to them. So I would appreciate that, please.
Yes, I will do it. Don't worry.
Yeah. But thank you, everyone. The program has taken a while simply because so many of the congresses I've been to, and I'm sure many of you have been to them, you turn up for a panel and there's 2 people. And I've been absolutely determined that when you turn up for a panel, every single paper that's meant to be there is registered and paid. And if they are not turned up, then they're probably sick or something like that. So Yeah, but that's taken time. And you can imagine as soon as you see your name removed, people suddenly are registering, trying to pay, begging, and it's a bit frustrating. But it's looking really good. We've got 800 registered and paid up people thereabouts. Sorry, Virginia, you're on hold on
mute.
I know it's not 100. It sounded like 100. 800?
No, 800.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and we've got another plan in place, which is where we're creating this category called anthropology patrons, where it's for non-presenters, and part of it is a fundraising exercise to say, please won't you fund for one day for someone who can't attend, so make a donation. And then the other is to try and pull in, I don't know, policymakers, people who have a degree in anthropology but left it, anyone who's interested. So it's a much cheaper online rate. So we're hoping the numbers will also increase through this category called an anthropology patron. So that'll be going out soon too. We set up a GoFundMe. So sorry, Bella, I didn't mean to. I did say I was here in spirit. I feel like I've now hijacked your meeting. I'm so sorry.
I organized a meeting, a big meeting before, so I know how much work is involved. Very much.
So I will see lots of you in person, actually, in about, I don't even want to think about it, 4 weeks' time, less than 4 weeks, maybe.
Oh.
So
thank you very, very much. Antonio, again, we want to talk again. If you say something, you need some support from WCAA in terms of program that is closing. I think, Gordon, we can do this.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think we can do it. And I think it's time to end here. Thank you, Helen, greatly for all of your work, but for all of us, this has been a really productive session. Thank you so much. What I'm going to do is, if I can work out the technology, to send you what Michelle has taken, so that all of you can add in your own bits to make sure that what you have said has been accurately represented, because this will be on the WCA website along with the video, and this will be put on YouTube. So, great. I think anthropologists around the world, if they're interested in this kind of discussion, as I hope they are, may well gain from this. And thank you, everybody, and particularly Bella, for chairing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. But I want to know, Antonio, I asked you a question, so
yeah, thank you very much. Has been very interesting, and thank you very much for your. I forgot the. Thank you. I want to say that we have to react in a common way all together in the world, because the world needs anthropologists to help the societies to understand each other. So we have a very big issue among us, and I hope we can share all the solutions to new generations. And thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gordon. Thank you very much, everyone. And we are going to meet soon. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.